It's the women in basketball talk. Let's go. Shot calling, the shots falling. My crossover leaves the ops crawling. The fans are in awe cause my handles are awesome. If you don't think I'm ballin', then hand me the ball then. Her story will make history. Watch the long shot hit the three, guaranteed victory. You might wanna stick with me, headed for the goal. If you roll, set a pick for me. It's the women in basketball talk. Tune in, all facts, no cap. We could talk about stats. It's the women in basketball talk. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, yeah.
What's up, basketball fans? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Portsea, discussing all things women's basketball. Let's start with the WNBA. And this year, the talk off the court is just as intense as the talk on the court. The league expanded its schedule to 44 games without adding more days to the calendar. That has caused players to sometimes play 8 games in just 16 days with minimal recovery. Stars like Breanna Stewart and Satou Sabally has openly voiced their concerns, saying the tight game schedule has caused players to be more tired, increasing their risk of injuries and hurt the overall quality of the game.
I feel like the hardest part is no matter what, when I was playing 36 games or 32 games, it was in the same amount of time as 44 games. I love that. So just kind of being conscious of that. I know on both ends between April and October, like there's things happening. But I think that's one of the biggest talking points in the next CBA is like, all right, how can we make it so teams aren't playing 4 and 6 3 times in a season? And continuing to have the rest and recovery so that we are at our best. But it's tough. It's a tough thing.
Kathy added a lot of games, and us as players, recovery is so important. We put our bodies on the line every single time. We had 9 games in 18 days. It's not really responsible for a commissioner. I think other teams have like 3 back-to-back. So it's just a lot of things that we could clean up in terms of scheduling, but we've persevered and we show that we can do it. It's just something that obviously along the way over the course of a long season, that's really hard to do.
Coaches are suggesting solutions like expanding the roster or even finally extending the season into November. But scheduling can be tricky when 6 of the WNBA teams share arenas with the NBA and NHL teams, and international obligations for players overlap too. If you was the commissioner of the WNBA, what solutions would you make to better the well-being of WNBA players? Let us know in the comments below. Meanwhile, Unrivaled, a professional 3-on-3 women's basketball league founded by WNBA stars Napheesa Collar and Breanna Stewart, announced during WNBA All-Star Weekend that it has signed 14 of the top women's basketball college players to NIL deals. This class includes Juju Watkins, Lauren Betts, Izzy Fultz, Hannah Hidalgo, Flau'jae Johnson, Madison Booker, Olivia Miles, and others, all of whom have collectively appeared in 32 NCAA tournaments, 10 Final Fours, and 4 national championships. The NIL deals allows these athletes to gain exposure, professional opportunities, and compensation while still in college. These players got the opportunity to attend the Future Unrivaled Summit, where they participated in both basketball development and media content creation from July 31st to August 2nd. However, unlike previous Unrivaled deals with Paige Becker and Flau'jae Johnson, this latest group does not include league equity and does not guarantee pro roster spots after graduation. Our next segment is a treat because I will be interviewing 2-time WNBA All-Star Michelle Snow. This interview with Michelle Snow is a full circle moment for me. 14 years ago, my sister and I were just fans in the stand watching her play. And today, she's a guest on my show. Before we jump into the interview, here's a clip from the day I watched Michelle Snow in action. Enjoy, and always remember, dreams do come true when you believe in God. Reporting live at the Chicago Sky game. As you can see, I'm like right here, right by the players' bench. Me and LaShawn Portsea. Special access. Bye-bye. The favor of God. That's all I have to say. God's favor. Here's Michelle Snow. Huh? Yeah, this the missus. Who you thought it was? Yeah, they go Michelle Snow. She's a former Olympian. What you say, it's also.
I think Michelle Snow trying to show out because we watching. Did that camera? I think I know I look this.
You're listening to Let's Talk Women in Basketball, the number one podcast show for today's women's basketball fans, with former and current players from your favorite team, discussing all things women's basketball. This is the place for you. You can find us on Spotify, Anchor, Instagram, and Facebook at Let's Talk Women in Basketball.
What's up? I'm Fly J, and you're watching Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Porty, and right now we are joined by a certified dunker, a two-time WNBA All-Star, four-time SEC champion who left her mark on courts around the world. She made history when she became the third woman to dunk in an NCAA game and earned a place in the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. She also played for legendary teams like the Houston Comets. So without further ado, please welcome the one and only Michelle Snow to Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. Hi, Michelle. How are you doing today?
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. What have you been up to nowadays?
Wow, honestly, just enjoying life, enjoying the sunshine, and getting my podcast out there as well to the viewers, making sure they get that inside access, especially with the expansion of the Portland team and the Portland Fire.
Yeah.
Kind of doing something teams haven't done before and kind of showing what that looks like as a team unfolds going into their first season.
Oh, wow. I'm excited for the Portland Fire. I remember years ago when they were a part of the WNBA. So that's pretty cool that you're a part of that. How did you get into being a part of the Portland Fire?
Honestly, I just reached out Claire Hamill, who started the WIN program at Nike, and that was a program that brought 60 WNBA athletes into corporate America and kind of showcased and shared how those skills translated into corporate America. She's now the president of that team.
Mm.
So it gave an opportunity to kind of reach out, say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I would love to do is be able to share your journey with other fans across the globe so that they get to see what it's like when you're making a new team and bringing that to the WNBA.
Wow. You also mentioned you have a podcast. What's the name of your podcast and where can people go follow it?
The name of the podcast is Your Game Network, a media company, and the podcast is the WNBA podcast. So if you go to any social media channel and put in Your Game Network VIP, you can follow us for all the behind the scenes news.
Okay. Take us back to the beginning. What was little Michelle like growing up in Pensacola, Florida?
A bundle of energy. Around my family, a bundle of energy, always chitty chatty. And then the juxtaposition was I had social anxiety and was very shy and introverted outside of that. So it was interesting to kind of look back and understand how important and how much it meant for my family to kind of immerse me in different situations. All of them are storytellers.
Yeah.
So I naturally picked that part up. All of them really try to do their best to make a social impact in the community. And so even as a kid, they had us going around helping the homeless or going around doing different things in the community. And I just see that young version of me being like, I'm going to do the same thing when I grow up. And now I actually see it and I understand like this is definitely your purpose. You've always known this is your purpose and you're just standing in that light and you have the wisdom and the experiences from the past 45 years of life to kind of help me understand how to reach people that look different, how to have conversations with different people and build that unity and alignment that sports naturally brings to the table across the world to other people. So just bringing them along on the journey, honestly.
Wow. When did you first fall in love with the game of basketball?
In diapers. I I've had a ball in my hand since I was a very, very little girl. My dad would always go play on Saturdays. My family would play on Sundays after we would have Sunday soul food Sundays, which
Mm.
was a real thing in our family. It would be 30, 40 people easy at grandma's house. And afterwards, they're going to the park to play. and I'm running up and down the court trying to keep up with my dad and just
Wow.
following him. And wherever he's at, I'm trying to be. And, they're naturally like, you're just going to get trampled. You got to move, you got to get off.
Yeah.
And I'm still running up and down that court to this day. You're not going to move me. You're not going to tell me to go to the sidelines and be a cheerleader. If he can do it, I can do it. And I've had that attitude since I was a little kid. And it's like, what do you mean I should go cheer? What do you mean I should? No, I'm playing. Move.
Wow. So were your family very supportive when they knew that that's what you wanted to pursue? And how did they support you in your dreams and aspiration of becoming a professional basketball player?
My family was super supportive. It's beautiful because even when I played in high school, you would look up and they would have games where all of them would come and take up the whole section and
Wow.
cheer. When even in college, they would show up and it'd be every last one of them, and they're all coming and they're in their snow t-shirts and jerseys, and they're going to show up. And then they also made it very clear, just like we showed up to this game, we will be at graduation, so you better be walking.
Yeah. So what type of challenges did you face while you were pursuing your dream, or did you face any challenges? Because it seemed like basketball came so natural for you since you started at such a young age.
No, it didn't. It didn't come naturally. It's almost how you hear Kobe and them saying you got to take the 10,000 shots and all the different time that is put into the game. What people tend to overlook is, yes, I did go from 5'5" to 6'5". That is an advantage, obviously. But I also was undersized as a post player and broke everything anytime I got hit. But I think what they also miss out on is I remember standing in the front yard and I spent hours and I couldn't even get the ball to the rim. And I just kept trying. And you know how when you're little, you're chucking it up there, trying to get it
Yeah.
up. Your form is horrible. And I can look back and I remember moments, and that was most of my days in the summer. Is I would just go outside from the minute I got up and I would try. And when I made my first shot, I just lost it. And then I had to make another one and another one. But I was not afraid of standing out there, missing and airballing. I didn't care about the kids laughing or teasing me. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do, and I'm going to figure out how to get it done. But I
Yeah.
think the hours that a person puts into learning a skill is often overlooked because you're going to put in that same amount of time to learn how to dribble, to rebound, to shoot. All of those skills take time, and it is 10,000 hours to become an apprentice in any field and to kind of master that to a point that you have muscle memory.
Yeah. Wow. Was there any standout games from your childhood that you remember as a defining moment in your career?
Oh wow. The minute you said any standout moments is
Mm.
not what people are gonna think. 'Cause, yeah, I had games where I scored a ton of points and did all these cool things, and that was great. The For me, the defining moment was when I realized that I had the ability to turn on my focus like that and I could zone in.
Wow.
And that is a skill. It did take years and years of practice. But there was a game, rival game, entire gym is packed. We're the unknown team. They're the city. They're always the state champions. Everybody knows who they are. Great team. And we're coming out after halftime. And I literally forget that after halftime, you change baskets.
Wow. Don't tell me you made a shot on the other team's goal.
Pulled up for a three, girl, in a gym full of people.
Wow.
So embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. And my coach, it even got to a point where she was like, after halftime, I'm gonna just hold you for this first play and then we're gonna put you in. And it wasn't like I get it. I knew we changed baskets, but I was excited. My anxiety was high because this here is a big team. It is a big game. And I remember I made that shot and she called that timeout and said, if we don't win this game, it's going to be me and you. And I literally had to turn that focus on
Mhm.
and just switch. Ended up winning the game. And I mean, but the level of play, it went
Yeah.
from here to here because I felt so bad. I felt bad for my team, my coaches, the kids in the school that were kind of like, is she okay? It was embarrassing.
Hmm.
I think that was a defining moment because it showed me like it's okay to make mistakes. We all make
Yeah,
mistakes. Sometimes people it is going to be in a fishbowl sometimes, and people are going to highlight it and they're going to try to paint that because a
yeah,
lot of people are kind of like, is she slow? And it's like everyone does this. We make mistakes.
yeah.
Get on the shell. And it was kind of like that first day when I was outside trying to shoot and everybody was laughing then too.
Hmm.
I'm not perfect, but I'm gonna get there.
Yeah, that's true.
Keep
You know,
showing
it's
up. Yes, I'll
yeah,
get
that's true. You know, it's funny. My sister had a moment similar to that. So when we were in middle school, the coach finally put her in the game for the first time. She never got playing time because she was always on the bench. So the coach was like, "We're gonna put 14 number two in the game," because they used to call me 14 number one, 14 number two. So they put her in the game, and my sister was so used to when we played like in the backyard, we would play like make it take it, or we'll like
there.
get the rebound, and then we got to take the ball out. So so she got the rebound. She was excited. She got the rebound. I got the rebound, and she ran out of bounds. The coach was like, "Take her out the game. Take her out the game." It was so funny. Yeah, I'll never forget that. So she had
Oh,
kind of like a similar moment, but it is embarrassing. But at the same time, look at you now, like you made it to the lead. So
it's a part
everybody's
of
gonna
the
forget
game. Like nobody's perfect.
that. Yeah. Wow. You had several offers from top schools, including my favorite school, Duke University, but you decided to go to the University of Tennessee. What about Tennessee that made you say, this is where I want to be?
I have the funniest stories. I promise I should do another book. Um, to be completely honest, I actually called Pat the day before signing day,
Oh, wow.
and I told her, it was like the day before or a couple of days before, and I was like, I'm actually gonna wait till the spring to sign. And she said, I'll be there tomorrow. You signing. And I was just like, okay, no, I'm not. Context. I did not have cable growing up. We watched PBS. I did not know, I didn't fully understand at that time who Pat was. I didn't understand why there were people lined up for 3 blocks to get into the gym when she came. I didn't understand the Cinderella season or that she was like a legendary rock star.
Hmm.
So my view was kind of like just, hey, I heard you're a good coach. I want to get to know you. I want to understand. But I also noticed how other people looked at her, but I didn't necessarily have that because I wasn't fully aware of like the just fandom that comes around her. And she shows up at my school, and we have this long concrete walkway that leads up to the school. And we're a 6A school, so this is a big school. And everybody's getting ready to go to class, and it is almost like everybody's off the sidewalk and just kind of looking at her, and she looks at me and says, "Sit down." And I'm just looking at her like, okay. She takes out a piece of paper, draws a line down the center of this piece of paper, and she puts Tennessee, and then she puts the University of North Carolina on the other side. Context on that. The University of North Carolina, Sylvia Hatchell,
Yeah, she's a
her
good
niece
coach
played
too.
on my high school team.
Wow.
So they offered me a scholarship my freshman year. Before
Wow.
anyone knew who I was, before anyone had a chance to see me. And my mom was just like, okay, you have it. We're not signing that. You're going to pass your ACTs, SATs. You're going to make sure you position yourself to go to anywhere you want to go. Pat sits me down. And she goes, "You told me that you wanted to graduate and that that was important to you and that your family expects that." I said, "Absolutely." She goes, "We're the only school in the country with a 100% graduation rate."
Wow.
She said, "I'm not even going to put their percentage." And I go, "Okay." I'm like, "Geez, she is not playing." She
Yeah.
goes, she writes down one national championship for them because they had just won with the three-pointer at the buzzer, and I was all excited. And it was a post player that shot the three. So she goes, one national championship. She draws two, scratches it out, and says, "We're going to win this year. Three."
Wow.
Okay. She puts five Olympians or something like that. On her side, it was like 28. And she goes, it's just, she keeps going.
Wow.
Takes the paper and shoves it into my chest and says, if you don't sign tomorrow with us, you don't have a scholarship with us. We don't have time to waste on this nonsense and back and forth because we are clearly the better school. And we
Yeah.
give you what you asked for. And I'm going to push you and I'm going to demand, and it's not going to be easy, but you decide, do you want easy or do you want what you said you were going to have? And I literally just sat there and was like, this is different.
Mm,
And I end up signing at the University of Tennessee the next day. And I was just like, I don't know what it is about her, but it's different.
mm-hmm.
But her pitch to me wasn't about how many championships she had. It wasn't about who she was. It was kind of like, you're going to get a degree. You're going to be positioned to be an Olympian. You're going to be positioned to win a national title. You're going to get exposure to get to the WNBA. And we have the most athletes in the WNBA. So you keep telling me that your degree, exposure to the league, and all these things are important. We are the clear winner. And it was just the way she delivered it because she
Yeah.
was delivering it from what I wanted and needed and expected. And it had nothing to do with what she needed from me.
Wow.
And every other school was about, it was very different. It was, what do you want? What do you need? And she just had a very different approach. These are your expectations. This is how we're going to meet them. Either you show up and do the work or you don't. And
Wow.
it's just different.
Yeah, she sounds like a different type of coach. She's one of the greatest ever. What was it like being coached by her? And do you have any other untold Pat Summit stories that you would like to share?
I got a million untold past summer stories. Um, It was very different, but it was human centric. She
Mm,
wanted to make sure she that like that was one of the things that captivated me, is she actually heard what I said. I had other schools come in and they would look at my mom or look at my dad and they would talk to them and would never look at me. I'm
wow.
not coming to your school. You are
Yeah.
crazy. I'm 18, and although I might be nervous or scared, why are you talking to them instead of me if I'm the one you're trying to get to come to your school? And
Yeah.
and it was so disrespectful and rude. And it was like, you're going to come in my house and have a visit with me and talk to them. So what you're saying is, you don't think I have a voice. You're already taking that voice away. I'm not coming to your school. I had others come in. They knew that my family is very big into the church and religion. She'll be in church every Sunday. Definitely not coming to your school. Are you making religious choices for me? And are you telling them where I'm going to be and what? That doesn't work for me. I've always had a voice. I've been afraid to use it. And although at that time I wouldn't have said not coming to your school, I'm just sitting in the back of my head going, I'm definitely not coming there. And I just started to realize who's talking to you, who's not.
Mm-hmm.
Who's giving you what you expect and need and what you want out of a university? Who's going to give you an experience you're the oldest of five? Who's going to allow you to go away from a sheltered life? Because my mom, she would have been up there washing clothes if she could have every weekend and cleaning the room. And I was like, I need to go further away because I
Yeah.
understand that I have to figure this out. This is my
Mm-hmm.
story. This is my pen. And no, I don't want to go away. And yes, I can stay home and be coddled, but I need to get away and grow up.
Yeah.
And I understood that at a very early age. And that's one of the things Pat would always say. I have never seen a player that understood priorities better than you. Like,
Wow.
you get that part. You understand that the ball isn't the end, the ball is simply a vehicle. And she would teach me and tell me to change my major, told me to change it to psychology, said maybe you can figure yourself out because I can't. Um, That lady is hilarious. And she knew that would challenge me. And by challenging me, she knew I would change it. And she knew that I would learn social skills because I did not have them. I
Mm.
couldn't even look like the way I'm looking at you right now. I would look at the floor. And she
Oh,
would
wow.
say, you can't be a businesswoman doing that. And she would
Mm.
say, it's going to be very difficult and hard for you. You're going to hate me for the next 4 years, but I'm going to pull that out of you if you're telling me that you want to be a businesswoman. And she
Mm.
was like, no one is going to trust you if you won't look them in the eye. No one is going to trust you if you won't speak up. So she would get us media training. She would bring in John Maxwell and speakers to come in and just pour into us. We we used to sit in front of greats just like her and learn from them, and she would give them the floor. And so it taught me if she's willing to do all of this work and this research, I need to do the same thing. I need to better understand myself. She knew I was a lifelong learner. She already knew that.
Yeah.
Um, she knew I was smart, so she was just like, she just needs direction on making sure she's not running in the wrong direction. She has a lot of energy, and she was just like, I just need to channel her energy in the right direction. And the psychology degree will allow her to see herself.
Mm.
She'll still be able to do the business stuff that she wants to do and get that as well. But she needs to understand social awareness. She needs to, I didn't have any of that.
Wow.
None. I used to have my headphones on all the time because I had so much social anxiety. And
Hmm.
she would just walk up and say, take those off. You are so rude. I'd be like, I'm not being rude. I'm really like, my anxiety is through the roof. And although I have this face that looks really calm, I'm
Uh,
choking inside. And I know so many other kids and players who said they feel the same way and
yeah.
they're trying to find ways to hide it. And she just forced it out of me. And then she'd make me speak in front of the whole crowd. She'd make me say the grace. And she'd do different things to put me in positions where I had to speak. And I would have those sweat pockets and I would be uncomfortable. And she kept forcing me to do it until I just grabbed the mic one day and said, you're going to make me do it anyway. She's like, you don't have to do it anymore. I was like, what do you mean I don't have to do it anymore? She was like, that's what I was waiting on. I was waiting on you to be comfortable being uncomfortable and no longer caring. And it was such a powerful lesson, and it took me years to actually get there. And
Wow.
she just kept staying on me and kept being hard, and she never let up. She did not let up.
Wow.
Just, I would go home and she wouldn't know it. I told her this years later because she was like, I never broke you. I said, you broke me on day one. I've been crying every day for 4 years. I just was not going to let you see it.
Wow.
I'm gonna keep my poker face. I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna be strong. But I went home to that dorm room and cried every single day. But I kept showing up and I kept
Yeah.
getting.
What was the toughest lesson you learned from Pat Summit?
Hmm. Wow. I think the toughest one. Hmm. That's a really good question. Wow, that one floored me. The toughest lesson I think was probably realizing and understanding that we bumped heads so much because we were so much alike. She would stare me down, I stare back through her. Like, I don't know how or why. I'm not suggesting anybody do that. That wasn't the smartest thing. I said I had no social skills I was learning. But if you stare at me, I'm gonna stare at you.
Mhm.
You talk crazy, I'm gonna talk crazy to you.
Yeah.
The hardest lesson was the mirror that she was holding up for me to look at and to
Wow.
look into. And it took time because at first I was like, nothing's wrong with me. I'm okay. I can just have on my headphones. I can take them off and play, and then I can put them back on. I can leave. I don't have to talk to my teammates. I can just wave and hurry through the locker room and leave. And she just kept holding that mirror up, and she would tear me to pieces in practice. She would walk in, and I walk in, I walk by with my headphones on. Oh, so you don't know how to walk into a room and speak? And she would just tear me down and tear me down. And I used to be like almost scared to come into the locker room, but I would never show it.
Mm.
And sometimes I go straight to the bathroom and cry. And but she was holding a mirror up and showing me how I was seen. She knew I wasn't like doing it to be nasty or to be rude or to be mean, but she also knew I wouldn't listen unless it was given to me a certain way because I wasn't as open then. I didn't necessarily understand social skills. And so she just kept breaking me down. And that
Wow.
mirror is hard. There are a lot of grown people I'm realizing who have never looked in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Looking back, how did your experience with Pat Summit prepare you for the WNBA?
Man, if you can play there and show up every day and practice, because you're going to give everything you have for 3 straight hours, go straight to the locker room, change, go lift weights, go to study hall, and you have a regimen and a schedule where you just become accustomed to showing up and how you're going to show up. You're going to be in the first three rows of class. And if you're not, the teacher is going to go tell on you because Pat is friends with all the teachers because they're all
Oh, wow.
favorites. So they're going to snitch on you. It wasn't like most schools where you could get away with stuff like that. You
Yeah.
couldn't get away with that. I've had Pat show up, tap me while I'm asleep, and embarrass me in front of the entire class.
Wow.
Most coaches are not going to spend the time to go and check that every kid's in class, and they're
No.
not going to do it consistently. They're not going to befriend the teachers, and they're not going to hold up a mirror in front of all of your peers and show you who you are. And to be honest, most of these kids are going to transfer with this transfer portal instead of looking in the mirror.
Yep. That's true.
But
Yeah.
that prepares you for the league, because if you can't look in the mirror, and if you're not willing to do the work, and if you're not willing to listen, and if you're not willing to adapt and change, you're not going to make it.
Yeah. Wow. Which lead to my next question. What's one piece of advice would you give young athletes who also look to play at the college level?
Find someone that played, and someone that you can find more than one, because you have the internet and social media. And there's so many athletes that are telling their stories across NBA, WNBA, soccer. It doesn't matter. Find someone that resonates with you, that you trust, that you know, that you like, that pours into your soul.
Mm,
Like when they speak to you, something should move within you. That's not going to be everybody for every person. For
mm,
some people, Pat would have been too much. But for me, it was just what I needed. My approach is a little different. I do try to, like, Pat speaks from the heart, and she's a beautiful person, but she's willing to be the bad guy to show you something. And
wow.
it's, how do you learn how to do that in this environment with this generation of kids in a way where they want to listen? And that takes skills, that takes understanding communication and being able to communicate with them in a way that they like. But they also have to do the work of finding people, because the information's out there, and they
Yes.
just have to put in the time. And I go, you have 30 minutes every day that you could take to watch a video of someone you like, a speaker, doesn't even have to be an athlete, who's going to pour into you. You have Eric, the hip hop preacher, one of my favorites. I used to sit up, put him on every morning.
Yeah.
He's just pouring into your soul about how to show up every day in life, not necessarily sports, just life. But find someone and then watch them and begin to listen and do what they're telling you needs to be done.
Mm, wow. After college, you went on and got drafted to the Houston Comets. What was it like playing for that franchise, and how did that experience shape your game on and off the court?
I think it shaped me in a lot of ways, because you're coming from, like I said, I was coming from Tennessee, coming off a national championship, just, had one block away from a triple double. So you're on top of the world. You just did some historic things that changed the women's game with dunking. And now you're going to a team that just won four straight world championships, and they don't need you.
Mm,
And you get off the plane, and they call me into a practice, and I know that they never kept a rookie.
yeah.
Going from the national championship and everybody knowing, liking, and loving you, and having fans galore, to knowing that if you don't do well in this next practice, that you're probably going to get cut,
Wow.
and you've done everything right, and you've played at the highest of the games, and you position yourself for this moment, and you know that they're calling you in because they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with this 6'5" lanky post player that's not cornbread, because remember, the post players are really big.
Yeah.
And I'm playing like a guard at the five spot, and they're kind of like, we don't really know what to do with her. That was intimidating. It was so intimidating. And it was hard. And I would go in with that same face like nothing bothered me. And I would just show up every day doing what I'd done for 4 years at Tennessee. Show up, play really, really hard, outwork people, make sure you're the first one there, make sure you got another practice afterwards. And that's how I spent those first 2 years. I didn't even unpack for 2 years. I literally had my bag sitting there in the closet, because I knew that any moment they would hit me up and tell me that they no longer needed me. And I'm going from one block away from a triple double and playing 30, 40 minutes a game to not getting any playing time. And I'm being forced to go back to the end of the bench, and I got to work my way back to the top because I happened to play for a legendary team that
Yeah.
didn't necessarily need me. They already had a post player that they believed in, they understood, and that post player from Tennessee. So it made you have to learn how to reset and understand that at every new level, you're going to go back to the bottom, you're going to work your way up. The next level, you're still elevating, but you're at the bottom. You're not jumping from here to here to here. That typically doesn't happen. And you have to be able to mentally adjust, listen and learn. Everywhere Cynthia Cooper was, I was. She was doing an extra practice, I was there. She was sitting there like, if you're gonna play like a guard, then play like a guard. Come do these guard workouts. When they realized that I used to be a point guard and I could bring the ball up while they were double teamed, I was one of the few post players that could do it.
Wow.
And it ended up becoming my saving grace. I was before my time. I played like KD in the women's game before there was a KD and before anyone knew what to do with post players like myself. Now, look at the number 2 draft pick in 2025, who's dunking and 6'6" French, and she's playing and
Mhm.
she's doing all of these
Doing
things
everything. Yeah.
that wasn't common when the league first started. And they would always tell me, you need to put on weight. You're not going to make it. No one knows what to do with you. You're going to get hurt. And I heard all these things. And for 13 years, I continued to hear them. But I kept showing up and I kept finding a job. I kept getting, great contracts. And it was like, you just got to believe in you. You got to show up. You got to do the mental preparation to make sure that you are able to withstand, because some of that stuff is going to come from the people closest to you that you love the most. And they're trying to support you and protect you, but it actually is scaring you. And it
Yeah.
actually is tearing down the belief that you have in yourself. And you have to start just learning how to speak life into yourself.
Mm. Wow. How are you able to block out the negativity? Because some people can't do that. When they hear you got to gain weight, you got to do this, you got to do that. How are you able to just block that noise out and keep going?
That's a really good question too. I didn't block it out. I heard it
Oh,
and it
wow.
hurt. And I would take that same notebook and I would write down who said it and what they said. And before every game, I would read it. When I didn't want to study, I would read it. When I
Mm,
was tired, I would read it. And I made it my fuel.
mm.
You said I wasn't special. I wasn't going to get out of high school without being a black statistic and pregnant.
Wow.
I'll abstain. You said all these schools are coming to see me, but it doesn't mean anything. I need to learn how to take care of my husband. I need to understand how to iron, cook, clean. And I'm just looking at him like, I know how to do all those things, but he better take his clothes to the cleaners like me.
Yeah.
Those days are over. If I'm taking mine to the cleaners, what makes you think I'm pulling out an iron board for you? And if you think that's the case, then you're just not the person for me. There's nothing wrong with it, but you don't get to tell me who I am. And I battle with people who try to tell me who I am, how I should think, and they make these monolithic viewpoints of everyone feels this way and everyone does that. And I go, no, they don't. Actually, there's 16 personalities. This is where psychology now is playing into that mental strength. I know those things aren't true. I'm just going to keep writing down what you're saying. I'm not going to get pregnant. Um, I had some people, there was some cruel things and they hurt. They hurt so bad. And I just would write them down and read them, and just became my fuel. Oh, now you think you want to be a businesswoman. Oh, now you got 2 businesses. Oh, now you buying real estate. Don't you think you spreading yourself too thin? Don't you think you're doing too much? Don't you think you need to slow it down? And I just remembered all of those things I learned in psychology. Don't allow where people are in life to fool you. If they don't want to do the work, that's on them. But don't let their words stop you from doing what you know you were called to do. And so I would just write it down and I would prove them wrong. And I would check it off when I proved them wrong.
I love that.
I would just check it off. And so it was fuel.
Wow. You played, well, you had great teammates throughout
Mm.
your career. Tina Thompson,
Yep.
Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, Rebecca Lobo. I could go on and on. What was it like having them as your teammate?
To be honest, they were really cool. They were gonna challenge and push you now. We were gonna do those same dog fights we did at Tennessee with some of the greats there. And they went hard. And I love that because I was like, that's what I'm used to. So for me, that part made it easy because I was like, okay, I go hard. I know how to play hard. I also like I would just sit there and be like, dang, T, like I would call it T3 because of the three she was shooting. She was a heck of a 3-point shooter. And I would also look at Tina plays more like a 3-4. If
Hmm.
you can start guarding some of these fives, you could take that pressure off of her so she's not having to guard the hardest player on the floor at the same time. You can get playing time because that will make her job easier. When they're triple teaming the guards, they could throw it in, you could take it up the floor. And it got to the point where the post player would still be standing under the basket, and I would get an easy jumper. And I'd have three straight jump shots before that post player was hearing that buzzer to come out of the game. And I was like, now you're expanding the defense and forcing players that play a different way to have to come out. And if they come out, you're going to blow by them. And so I started understanding what value I brought to the team, what my role and responsibilities were based on their needs. And a lot of players forget every time you go to a new level, those roles and responsibilities will change, and you have to be able to follow, you have to be able to fit in, and you have to be okay with waiting your turn. And that is one of the things they did really well. And I will never forget how Cynthia Cooper, she is one of the wildest, funniest, hardest working people I've ever met. Um, but she would come up before every game and go pop, pop, and smack me like this and be like, "You ready, Snow?" And that was our little pregame thing. And I'd be like, "Bet." But what that was saying is, I believe in you.
Yeah,
Because some people were like, "You gonna let her slap you like that?" And I was like, "Is that what she's doing, or is she saying that she believes in me? And am I on the floor?
yeah.
I'm on the floor. Don't try to change my story."
Hmm.
She's pouring into me. She's taking me to workouts. She's sitting here showing me different things and pouring into me. I'm going to listen. And I'm not going to listen to the chatter of you trying to change that dynamic or change how that picture looks. I'm going to take it for what it is. And you have to learn how to be strong enough to do that.
Wow. You had legendary coaches. We talked about Pat Summit, Van Chandler. Man, how was he like as a coach? How was he?
Van was Van was what I needed. Okay,
Yeah.
coming from Tennessee, where it's very structured, coming to Van is very kind of unstructured. It's very different. I remember he called a play, called a timeout, picked up the clipboard, and was like, "Yeah, I want y'all to stand in the wide, and when they clap the ball, I want y'all to just run." And I remember Cheryl, Cynthia, and they was so mad.
You sound just like him.
Yeah, that's how he talked. He'd be like, listen, you just gonna run. And everybody was kind of like, somebody's gonna get hurt or somebody's gonna run into somebody. That's not, we were all like, just tap the shoulder of the person in front of you, tap the side of which way you're gonna go. And like we would adjust on the fly. And that
Mhm.
was good for us because we had the team and the players who knew how to do that. And at the same time, Van was so funny. I was always getting technicals because I'm a protector.
Mhm.
My teammate, I'm coming for your behind because they need me to protect them and they need to be in the game. And I need to make sure they're in the game. You hit Cheryl, I'm gonna hit you. Period. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And I'm gonna walk up to you and tell you that if you touch her again, I'm gonna knock you clean off your body on that floor. And I meant what I said and I did what I said. So usually in the playoffs, I'll be one game away from getting thrown out. And Van would get thrown out. And then, but while he was walking out to the tunnel, he would tell me, I did that because you can't get thrown out. I
Wow.
need you to go into that zone that you go into. I need you to get every rebound. I need you to shut down this post player, and I got to go to this locker room. You better stay on this floor. That's nothing more than psychology. He's
Mhm.
saying, I believe in you. I believe in you so much so that I'm gonna get thrown out and look like a fool, and I'm waving his hands, and I just know that you got to stay on the floor. You do you hear me bigging? Because he would always call me big, and I was like, stop calling women big, and me and him just be going like, dude, what do you mean? Well, just stay in the game, make sure we win. I just got kicked out for you. And his accent was it just I thought it was so hilarious. But
Yeah.
underneath all of that, I got what he was saying. And I understood why he was doing it. And I was like, all right, if you're gonna pour into me, I'm gonna pour into you. And he understood that. If you fuel Michelle, Michelle is gonna run. She's gonna run. I have the work ethic. I just need to know which way to run, how to run, and I need to know that you got my back while I'm running. And
Wow.
if you do that, I'm gonna do the work.
Hmm.
But those are examples of like playing for him. And then you're playing for four legends. All you
Yeah.
gotta show up is get the rebound, player. Just show up and get the rebound. And I just eventually I found my space and I just became one of the best rebounders. I was gonna do it with one hand. Pat hated that, but I was like, I said, I got the rebound coach. Um, rebound with two hands, no. Um, and I was like, I got the rebound coach. Listen, I'm listening. I'm gonna put a little style to it. It makes it fun.
Mhm.
And I gotta have fun with while I'm doing this. And I'm not telling anybody to do what I did. It was foolish. Um, I was being stubborn, but it worked for me, and I still got to keep my identity. But you have to understand that sometimes you can't. And I've had some teams where I couldn't do that. There were teams where I had to score more. There were times when I had to change roles when Cheryl is retiring and now I'm court. And it's me and Tina. And your role changes again. That's just a game. But honestly, that's life.
Yeah. Wow. Looking at the WNBA's growth, talent, and visibility, what's your take on the current state of the WNBA?
Ooh-wee! The league is in a very special place. Number one sport globally for women. The viewership is through the roof.
Hmm.
I think you have so much talent, but I love how the talent is respecting each other. And I'm glad that they're showing the fans that it's not this. We
Hmm.
are going to stand for each other. We're going to have each other's back. We understand that everyone has different gifts. We're not here to compare our gifts with each other. I love even how they're speaking, like Flau'jae when she did the song and she shouted out Caitlin Clark and
Yeah.
Angel Reese. I'm like, that's sport. You're
Hmm.
being divisive. You're creating these dialogues. You're speaking for people that you've never had a conversation with. That is crazy.
Yep.
But you're doing it because you're jumping into a sport that you want to commercialize, but you weren't there before. And you don't know these athletes. You're the same person who said they didn't watch sports, who now says they watch sports and wants to sit up and talk about it for hours and has a big opinion on everything, but you don't know the sport or the game. There's nothing wrong with that. We welcome you. We want you here, but please stop being disrespectful to the people that paved the way and the
Yeah.
shoulders that they're standing on. And if you want to be disrespectful, you're just making yourself look like a fool every time you open your mouth. You
Yep.
look like a fool because you're talking about something that you don't know. You're giving opinions on things that you have no context on because didn't you just say you didn't watch women's sports?
Yep.
Look at all these people that are jumping onto the women's side who never wanted anything to do with women's sports.
Yep.
Look at the number of podcasts that were started this year and I go, how many people have been doing this for years? And they just loved it. It wasn't about anything other than I love this sport. I want to give a platform to teammates, athletes, women. And it's the women and the players. That's why I love when they're starting all these podcasts. I love stud
Yeah.
buds and they jump on and they're being
Yeah. They're
authentic.
hilarious.
I go,
Yeah.
that's what we need.
Hmm.
We need more of that.
Yeah.
To see like you can have more than one favorite player. It doesn't have to be one person, and it
Yep.
doesn't have to be about race. It doesn't have to be a point guard being compared to a post player. Like, stop it. Just sit down
Yeah.
and watch the game and have a good time. The kids are gonna have a good time. They get to see their favorite players. And I don't want us to start teaching this to these kids at an early age because that's not what it is. Sports women have always done this, and we will
Yeah.
continue to do that. Look at how they showed up at All-Star
Hmm.
with a plan, unified t-shirts on, telling their story. And they
Yep.
did it in such a way where you can't say, you can't complain.
Hmm.
It was ghetto. You can't say it was unorganized. You can't say
Yep.
any of those things. But these players showed up in a way that was phenomenal on a global scale and showed out.
Yeah.
That's what unity does. That's what it means when you bring people together that are very different and they have those hard conversations on if we do want to be paid more, what's the best way to do it? How do we want to show up and say it? How do we want to do it across the board where everyone has a voice and a platform? Like, I'm sorry, women's sports right now, it is smoking.
Yes, it definitely is.
Smoking.
It's wow, it's through the roof. What's one change in the WNBA that you wish would have existed during your playing days?
One change?
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't change anything.
Mm.
And I know that probably sounds crazy because most people be like, I'm gonna go back and get my money. They can send me a check, they can always send me a bigger check. Tennessee too, they owe me some money too. I made this
Yeah.
school a lot of money. And now they're going back with the NIL paying people to 2015. I was like, nah, I go all the way back to those dunks. I need a
Yeah.
check. I wouldn't change anything though. To be honest,
Mm.
I think my journey was supposed to be the way it was. I was supposed to have the valleys and the peaks. I was supposed to, I think if it was easier, it wouldn't have molded me into the person and the woman that I am. Maybe I wouldn't be in corporate America. Maybe I wouldn't have learned those skills. Maybe I would. Because one of the things you also get when it's easier is you become content.
Mm.
And so I didn't want to be content. I don't want to use the portal. Like I had to stay in one place and I had to figure it out. I couldn't
Yeah.
jump. Don't get me wrong. Transfer portal is good for some people because they are in very difficult situations and mental health is first. I'm very glad that we're putting that first, but I
Mm.
also think some people are using it as a way to get what they want.
Yeah. I think so.
But they don't realize you're also you're taking on skills that are not going to help you when you can't do that. Because when you get to the pros, you don't get to transfer.
Hmm.
You don't get to not like your teammate or coach so you can transfer. This
Yeah.
is the coach. This is the team. You can either show up and you better show out, or they're gonna hand you a bag and tell you bye-bye. And some people are so used to being handed everything because that's what with NIL, with all these teams and AAU and all the money that's going around now. I think that's the part that's missing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want a shortcut.
Yeah. Do you think that the NIL deals is taking away the passion for the sport, or just make players know that, oh, I got the money, so let me not play hard? Or do you think the passion is still there?
That passion is still there because Juju over there. Juju is smoking them. You got Juju, you got Angel Reese, you have like you have Asia Wilson. These are players that benefited from NIL.
Mm.
They're going to be paid, but they're still showing up and they're playing at a phenomenal level. They're just understanding that they're a business now and they're a brand. How do I build this business and brand? Just like when Anthony Davis trademarked the unibrow, James Harden trademarked the beard. They're understanding that you're giving away money to people who should not be controlling your name, image, or likeness. That
Yeah.
is exploitation. And they are now becoming the business. That is a beautiful thing. Angel with the me bounds and the
Yeah.
merch. And people are saying, what's a me bound? What's it is? You're gonna learn today. She's going to teach you. And she's breaking all these records. Asia, she drops all these signature shoes. She's three-time MVP. And she's telling her story. Like, how has she done more in terms of accolades in the league? And she isn't the voice of the league.
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, no, they're just hating on Caitlyn. It's like, I don't think it's that it's hating. I think that they're trying to figure out how do you make space for both people.
Both
And it
people.
isn't about one person. It's also, you'll sit there and say, who's the GOAT on the NBA side and say how many championships you got to win and how you got to paint that picture. But then you'll turn around on the women's game and say a different thing.
Yeah.
Can't do that. Caitlin is phenomenal. She's shown how what you can do with NIL and how you can leverage it. She's used her voice and platform. Paige Beckers, I love that young lady. She's from the enemy, UConn, but that's okay. Um, she's getting up at the ESPYS and using her platform to
Yep.
give everyone a voice. That is what NIL is bringing, is giving people platforms to have a voice to share what it's actually like and to take people behind the scenes and teach them this is how you build a business and a brand. 94% of women in corporate who are CEOs and in upper management play sports. Why? They understand team building, adaptability. They understand dealing with different cultures. They don't need teammates and team members that assimilate and that act like them, walk, talk like them. They know that there's a beauty in having people that cover your blind spots and your blind side. And they
Yeah.
understand that. And they're teaching these things because that's how you win a championship. You can't win a championship with five Steph Currys because there are not five basketballs, it's one. And if all
Yeah.
five of you trying to be the man, you're not gonna win. It's
Nope.
just not gonna happen. And it's like, how do you start leveraging what they're sharing with you and showing you with NIL deals and translating that to a business on the court? You have the Valkyries dropping Sephora from the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of
Yep.
this NIL stuff that college is teaching. Market to the woman and stop marketing to the men.
Yep.
The viewership went up when you market it to the product. Just market the product. You don't have to put on shorter shorts. You don't have to lower the rim. We can dunk at 10 feet. Don't play with us.
Yep.
Like, we can still do all of those things. I understand why people are saying do it because more people could dunk and it'll bring more. But that's the beauty of NIL because people are getting deals for excelling, not for lowering it, because then you're not doing the same product and it's not the same justice. And women have always stepped up and led the way. I think they're continuing to do that even with social movement and social activism through their platforms. I think they should be paid.
Yeah.
I just think they also should be getting financial training on how to make sure that if you're making that much money, you have wealth, generational wealth that is being set up. Because in 20, 30 years, if you're setting up an IUL, you have the right insurance policies and trusts set up, your family should not have the Rockefeller method and never be broke again.
Wow. Yep. I know that you're also a businesswoman. If you were the commissioner of the WNBA, what changes would you make and why?
Financial literacy will be first and foremost.
Mm.
You will build a brand. You will understand what building a brand does. I would have a Pat Summit mentality of how you show up matters. That doesn't mean you can't be tatted out. You can't have your own personality because I think some people box you into a very small box, but you should show up in, like we would always have our sweats on. We would not, like you walk into a room a certain way. There are expectations and things because you have people that are following people in airports trying to get them to respond and do crazy things.
Yep.
We're going to make sure everyone has media training. We're going to make sure that we have security so that you don't have those run-ins with people who are trying to get a response so they can make a group of people look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I would do. I would also make sure, like, they do have financial training, they do bring in people, but I would go so much deeper because if you're if you're making me money as that commissioner, how do I make sure all of you are eating? Because everyone isn't making those deals and everyone doesn't have those endorsements. How do I make sure that I start setting you up and teach you how to build your brand and business and where you can fit into the community and how we can also help you? Because if you can do that top to bottom, which I think Mark Davis is the king of with the Aces, when he
Yeah.
got every player a six-figure endorsement.
Yep.
And he understands, why do you think everybody wants to play in Vegas?
Yeah. He treat them well.
Everybody eats
Yep.
versus teams where you're going to make sure that that poster child eats and everybody better fall in line. If that poster child don't like you, then you're going to lose your job. Like some of that is learning the game and how to build these teams, how to team build. And I'm not saying the league isn't doing it. I would just dig deeper because
Mm.
the transition after basketball, most of these players are not going to play long enough to get the pension at year 10 because the average career, men or women, is 3 to 5 years in
Mm.
professional sports across the board. So, how do you build that business in that 3 to 5 years, and how do you fully maximize your time in the league? Can you leverage overseas? Can you become an agent? How do we transition you into these Fortune 500 companies where CEOs do very well? And how do we stop this whole narrative that professional athletes who come into corporate America are being given an advantage? How is it an advantage that I've been working on team building and strategic thinking, critical thinking, how to adapt, how to change? All of these are things that you learn as a team.
Yep.
You learn how to work as a team, and people are saying like, "Oh no, that's a diversity hire," or the reason you went to college was because of Title IX. Like, let's stop doing that. Let's
Yeah.
stop saying that people are getting advantages when in all honesty, when you look at their resumes, they are very overqualified. And now we create a pipeline from high school to college, college to the pros. And if you fall off at any of those, you should still be building your business and brand, and you can still transition into corporate or whatever it is that you want to do. But you understand how your skills translate and how much value and worth you actually have. And as the commissioner, I would create a pipeline of people to
Yeah.
position them for those things.
Wow. I love it. What's you mentioned that you're going to be partnered with the Portland Fire. You have your own podcast. Is there anything else that you would like to promote, or what's next for Michelle Snow?
To be honest, we just want to hear from the fans. Like, what do they want? What question do they have? What issues? Because some people, it might not be the social awareness, but I hear a lot of people saying, could you tell me more about confidence? Could you tell me how to build a brand? Could you explain what NIL means and how it works? And it's like, you tell us what you need, and we have the Rolodex to go and get the people to sit down and have those conversations. And now we're bringing them what they need. So it isn't about our agenda. It's genuinely about what do the fans need, what do players need, what do coaches need, and how do we leverage our wealth of resources for them.
I love it. All about giving back. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining Let's Talk Women in Basketball podcast. I look forward to seeing what else God has in store for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. That's it for today's episode of Let's Talk Women in Basketball. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook at Let's Talk Women in Basketball. Catch you next time.